What's up, guys? It's Dorian here. Thanks for tuning into /. This video is about Void Linux, but before I get started, I want to give a super duper thank you very much to Fridinator, who is my newest executive producer in my $20 Commander Kernel category. So welcome and thank you very much for contributing to my channel, which contributes to the Linux community, or at least I try. So anyways, Void Linux is something I've been wanting to check out, and it's definitely something different. And I'm actually going to do this in two parts because there is so much to cover for how-tos and whatnot and how it works because it is so different. Now, because it's different, maybe if you're a new user, you may not want to play with it as your first distro, kind of get your feet wet and other things. Looking at the popularity, it is 110, so it just falls off that top 100 list, which is a shame. And it is an independent distro from Spain, and it does not use systemd. So if you're a systemd hater, then this could be the perfect thing for you. It uses runit instead of systemd. Now, systemd is your system and service manager. You need something like that. So when your system starts up, it starts up all your services for you, whether it's your graphical server or your print server or whatever. It manages everything in the background. It's the first thing to start and the last thing to stop. So anyways, Void Linux, it is a rolling release. And it uses XBPS, which really doesn't roll off the tongue, but it actually works pretty good. And there's a few things I'll show you really quick here. So before getting into it, I want to quickly go over, let me fire up the virtual machine on the proper screen. So this is the ISO downloaded from the website. This is the Cinnamon ISO. I thought I would try something a little different. And it's running in a virtual machine, of course. Just wait for this to boot up. It's actually a pretty quick system, but running the live ISO, it runs a little bit more stuff. One thing running off of a virtual machine is it doesn't include the VirtualBox guest editions, which is easy enough to install. So we have here the Cinnamon desktop. It's available in other flavors. Let me just have a quick look. I don't remember exactly which ones there were. Here. There is Cinnamon, Enlightenment, LXDE, LXQT, XFCE, and then the base install are all here. So they're kind of just tossed in here. So just look for, more than likely, you're going to be looking for the x86 underscore. Oh, that doesn't work. Here we go. The x86 underscore 64 files, and then whatever desktop you want. So that's what you're going to look for. So let's just go back to this and recenter this. All right. So the installer is a little weird. You're going to, I'm not going to go over the Cinnamon desktop because it's Cinnamon. Whatever desktop you want to use, that's up to you. I'm going to fire up the terminal and I'm going to show you really quick how the installer works because it's a little different. So you're going to do a sudo void installer. Now, don't bother looking for it in the menu. It's not in there. You have to run this from the terminal, and the installer is also in the terminal. I will warn you, it's not the nicest one, but it's pretty simple. It works. So I'm just going to quickly run through this here. I'm not going to go too crazy into details. Just kind of hit enter and flip through them. So keyboard, you're going to find your keyboard. Say US layout, network, set up the network, sure, use DHCP, yes, and then the network is up and running. Enter source, make sure it's local because you're using an ISO. Host name, just call it whatever you want. I called it void. Local. Here, this is a little strange because the way that it's organized. So just look at the right column here and just scroll down. So English, USA, sure. Do that. Time zone, just pick your time zone. I'm just going to pick any time zone. Yeah, sure. Root password, do that. User account, login name, Dorian. Password, and group membership. So you have some defaults here. One thing that I always add, and it's different on different distros, but I like being part of disk just because sometimes I've had a couple of distros where I didn't have permissions to mount a disk or to access a disk, and adding myself to the disk group gave me the power to do so. So just do it that way. Bootloader, yep. Enter dev SDA, do that. Graphical terminal, yes. Partition uses cdisk. Now I already have it installed, so I'm not going to actually write to the disk. It's going to open up cdisk, and you're going to go in here, make sure it's bootable, make sure the type is Linux, and then you can set up your swap, and then you're going to go write, and then it's going to ask you to type yes, Y-E-S, in order to write it. I'm not going to do that because I already have it installed, but that's basically what you do. If your disk is blank when it starts up, it's going to ask you if you want a GPT partition or MS-DOS and a couple more. Just pick MS-DOS, and then make sure your root device is bootable. So quit. Then it's going to come to file systems, where you're going to see your two partitions, and pick your root one, hit enter. It's going to ask you what it is. ext4, yes. Specify the mount point, root, create new file system, yes. I'm going to say no. And then your swap, you do the same thing, and you say that it's a swap. So abort, no. So then finally install. Now the install is super fast. It was like less than 2 minutes. So I'm not going to do it. I recorded an installation earlier, but I'm not going to do it again. I'm just going to exit at this point, and I'm going to boot into the actual desktop. So really, really clunky looking installer, but really, really effective, really, really good. And it just works. It's worked every time. Never had any errors, never had anything wrong. So let me now boot in, reset. Yes. All right, so we're booting into Void now. This is the installation that I did. This was the Cinnamon desktop, and I actually installed KDE as well. So as you can see, it looks a little different. If you're used to systemd, it looks a little different because it doesn't have all the little OK switches and whatnot. So normally with Cinnamon, it has the LightDM display manager installed, your login manager, if you want to call it. But I installed SDDM instead. So because it goes with KDE, it matches a little more. So under the desktops here, we've got Cinnamon, KDE OpenBox, Plasma. So Plasma is what I'm going to log into here. And just like any VM, the screen is not always full screen, but once you log in, it fixes itself. So there's a few things you're going to want to do once you've installed your Void Linux system. And one of the things is more of just an annoyance than anything, and that is the auto-completion. So two things, and also Nano is not installed. So I'll just give you the command now to install that stuff. So you're going to do sudo xbps install s, and you're going to go nano, and then bash completion. So once you do that, hit enter. It's going to ask you for your password. It's going to do its updates. It's going to download the new repos, databases, and then it's going to install them. Because it's already installed in mine, that's it. It's done. So before you do anything, now we can change your mirror so that it's something that's a little closer. You're definitely going to want to do that because by default, it is in Europe and it's going to be slow unless you're in Europe. So for North America, I found the Chicago server was really quick. So we're just going to Google Void Linux, go to their page. One of their slogans is enter the void. And it really does feel like that because you're so detached from everything else. You have a different, you're not using systemd. There's not a whole lot on the internet about it, but their wiki and their forums are pretty good. So go to their wiki in the top here. And then you're going to go XBPS, which is their package manager. Click on that. And click repositories or scroll down. And scroll down official repositories. They have this downloads page. So click on that. And here are their mirrors and where they are. Now, you just zoom it in. So here's their mirrors. The thing is, you have to also add current after here. So I'm gonna do that right now so you can follow along. And I also made this HTTPS and it works. So pick one of these mirrors and then you're going to open up your terminal. Let's do this. And where's my Chicago? Just so I can see it at the bottom here. So now you're going to do a sudo nano, which we just installed, etc xbps.d, and in here I made one called dorian.conf. This folder will be empty. Make whatever you want and call it .conf. Enter. So in here it's basically one line, repository equals, and then HTTPS. So if you're going to just copy and paste from here, make sure you put in the S, and then mirrors.servicecentral.com/voidlinux/current. That's what I had to do. So now you're going to use a faster repo that's closer to you and a lot faster. So now you're going to do a sudo xbps install su. You could do suv, but su. This is going to update everything and all your packages in your system. And this will be using the repo that you selected that's closest to you. Like I said, for North America, I find the Chicago server is really fast. And I only tried the New York and the Chicago. Chicago was super fast. All right, so without going into this much more in too many details and making this one super long video, the differences. So this is what I'm going to focus on, run it and XBPS. XBPS I'll show you because we've been playing with it a little bit. It is, you know what, let me show you the website. Go back to the wiki. It is very similar. It reminds me of Pac-Man in Manjaro or Arch or what have you. Because if you look on their wiki, maybe I did that too fast, go to their wiki, XBPS, and then basic usage. Just scroll down. You can see the basic usage here. It is very similar to Pac-Man. So XBPS install -s packages to install. But if you want to search, it's XBPS query -rs package name. So, and then remove is its own thing. So I don't know why it's been broken up into different things. Instead of just using one like Pac-Man, they broke it up into separate commands. And if you want to update, it's xbps install -su. So this is why I said that you should really install that bash completion, because you can do xbps install. Not only that, but it also lets you autocomplete package names. So it just makes your life a lot easier, and it's not installed by default. I kind of think it should be, but that's something that you could just do yourself and it doesn't take a lot of time. So just go ahead and do that. Yeah. So XBPS install, not really nice to have to type every time. The autocompletion helps. You can use an alias to make something shorter, like maybe XI or something like that, and XQ and XR. That's one option. But if you really like using the GUI, if you're going to be using something like KDE or Cinnamon, there is a program you can install, and it is Octo XBPS. Now, I thought about how can I convert this XBPS using Octopi or maybe PAMAC and convert it so that it uses, instead of using Pacman, use XBPS, because it was so similar. So I Googled how to do it, and it actually exists already, OctoBPS. So you're just going to do sudo xbps install s, just type octo and tab, octo xbps, and then you're going to get this. So this is your graphical package manager, and it works just like it does in Arch or Manjaro or whatnot. If you want to install a program, oh, I already installed GIMP. What can I install that's not too large? Let's say Genie, which is an editor. So just right click, install, hit the checkbox here. Yes, it's going to ask you for your password. Enter in your password. Now, one important thing as well, so now it's going to go ahead and install it. If you get a pop-up message saying that there's no way for it to get administration rights, then you're going to do sudo xbps install s and gksu. So what this does is it gives you that prompt in your GUI. It's already installed. It gives you that prompt that you saw that asks you for your password. So then at this point now you have your repo set. You have, you know how to use the terminal to use XBPS to install things. You have a graphical package manager, and using the GUI, I was able to, or sorry, using the terminal, I was able to install KDE. So this was Cinnamon, and it was basically just KDE 5, I think it was. Yeah, just KDE 5. I installed this, and then I installed SDDM, and then boom, I was up and running with KDE Plasma, and some things were missing, so you have to install Dolphin and install all the extra stuff, but that gets you going anyways. So that's XBPS in a nutshell, and that's how to get your system, your Void system, up and running, at least the basics. Now, the other thing that I want to talk about is the Run It daemon. It uses a different way of managing and using services. It's very, very simple. If you go to /var/service, you'll see here all these are symlinks. So all these symlinks, if I were to open another window here, all these symlinks point to etc sv. So these symlinks in var service point to all these services which are in etc sv. Now, I'll open a terminal to show you. It's super easy to start and stop a service. If I don't want Network Manager to run, for example, I just delete its symlink. And if I wanted to restart, I just create a symlink. Super easy. Now, if I want to restart a service, let's do this. We're looking for the sv command. So sudo sv, let me say the status of our display manager, SDDM. Enter the password. You can see it's running, and that's the PID, and that's how long it's been running, 717 seconds. So if I go into etc, var service, and I do list-l, you could see all the files in here, which are symlinks and where they point to, right? So that's pretty easy. If we have a look in the available services, if there's something that you want to activate, just create a symlink. So here we have, earlier I said LikeDM was installed. It's actually LXDM. So if we go in here, now it is not here, LXDM, okay? So I'm going to do a sudo create the symlink. There, create the symlink from LXDM to here. Now when I do this again, you see I have LXDM, which points to the LXDM service, the real one. Now if I remove SDDM, it gets rid of the symlink, the service shuts down, and then LXDM will start up. Just like that. So that was basically just adding a symlink and then deleting another. And the runit system noticed it and acted accordingly. So that was how easy it was to switch a system, to switch a service. Get rid of one, start another. Super easy. But to restart it, you can actually use the SV command. So, you know what? Let me show you this somewhere else, because I also have an open box system. So as you can see, this is using kernel 4.18. I didn't mention it before, but being a rolling release, it's fairly safe to say it's going to be pretty current. So here we are. No, I don't want to reset. I want full screen. So I'm going to log in here. Now, OpenBox does not automatically resize with the VirtualBox Guest Edition. So you can see I have the black lines on the top and bottom. I haven't looked into it very much. I basically just installed this as a demo just to show that it works. So the way you can do it is you can go sudo sv restart, and I am using SDDM. That's the service. So the sv command is what's going to restart. I can also go status, password. Of course, it's running. And I'm going to restart it. Boom. It restarts the service. And now I'm back at the login screen. And this is a little trick, by the way, to get your full screen for your virtual machine. Restart your display manager, whatever it may be. So yeah, pretty cool. Pretty cool system. There's much more to cover. I'm going to be doing this in a part 2 because it's a lot. But that's the gist of it. That's how it works. And the resource usage is really low. Running KDE at 460 megabytes, but then again, there's nothing else running, right? So we have quit the 4.18.12 kernel, which was released October 4th. So very recent, but it's still the 4.18. It's not 4.19. So we're not getting into buggy territory. So I think it's really cool. It's something really fun to play with, and the way that it runs the services, I think, is very interesting. And if you've been using Linux for a while, even if you haven't, check it out, explore it. It's something that I really am enjoying playing with. Like I said, something new, right? You can use the same things over and over, and something new like this comes along, and it's just fun. Now, I'm not saying it's new to the world. It is just new to me. So I'm pretty happy with playing around with it and checking things out. One thing to note, if you are going to install an open box system from scratch, you're going to have to install Xorg, dbus, and a login manager along with OpenBox, and then you should be good to go. I'm actually going to do a whole part 2 on playing with Void from scratch type thing, and just have a little bit of fun with it. So anyways, that's all I got for now, guys. One thing I wanted to mention was this past week's been crazy. I had a new job, and it's been Thanksgiving weekend here in Canada, so I know it was like over a week with no videos, and I apologize for that, but sometimes life gets busy. And with that, I would like to thank my wonderful Patreon patrons, my executive producers, Nuno and Fridinator, who are in the Commander Colonel tier. Thank you guys so much for contributing. And also thank you very much to Carl, Carlos, George, Kit Says, and Ronald. You guys are awesome. You guys make this channel possible. And if you'd like to help contribute to my channel and help me contribute to the Linux community, head on over to patreon.com/Dorian./ That's all for now, guys. Thanks for watching. Till next time, bash on.